I just spent $20 on a strawberry. If a loved one said that sentence to you, how would you respond? Yelling, hurling insults, physical violence, all understandable reactions. But how would you feel to know that sentences just as dumb as this are said almost every day?
This is a $19 strawberry from Air One.
We ended up spending $112 on 4 items.
Line wrapped around the block.
I ran up the $200 bill.
$110 on 5 items.
Gourmet and luxury grocery stores have been trending for quite some time now, and I find them fascinating. Personally, I like grocery shopping, and not to brag, but I started meal prepping recently, and nothing feels more responsible than eating cold, damp chicken that was made 4 days prior. I hate it, and I want to die. And whenever I'd seen TikToks reacting to stores like this, I'd always give it the obligatory, "That's crazy." But I really wanted to look into why stores like this exist, why people are willing to drop a paycheck here, and just the state of food in America. It got sad almost immediately. The main inspiration for this video is the gourmet grocery store Meadow Lane, but if you want to understand the grocery store, you have to understand the man from which it came. Sammy Nusdorf is the CEO and founder of Meadow Lane, but if you want to understand the man, you have to understand the family from which he came. He's the grandson of Bernard and Ruth Nusdorf, founders of Quality King, a healthcare company based in Queens. But if you want to understand the family's company, you have to understand the city from which it came. Originally inhabited by an Algonquin-speaking group of people known as the Lenape, the city of Queens would later be inhabited by the Dutch in the 1600s, wherein, no, all you need to know is the Nusdorfs are rich. Their healthcare fortune landed them a spot on Forbes' 2014 richest families in America's list, where their net worth is listed at around $1.6 billion. And this is a fact that everyone has come to love, as seen by every comment he receives on nearly every post. Because if there's two things people love, it's American healthcare and billionaires. He went to NYU, culinary school in Italy, he did a little work as a florist, and all of that came together when his favorite upscale grocery store closed down and he realized he wanted to fill that space.
What inspired this store?
Well, I'm a native New Yorker, and when Dean and DeLuca went out of business, I was so upset. I used to go there all the time. 6-7 years ago, I was like with a coworker, and I was like, I'm gonna open a grocery store one day.
He seems like a nice enough guy, so it leaves me wondering why the internet is always so mad at him.
This is the perfect chicken nugget caviar ratio.
Oh yeah, that's why. But this isn't the first rich people grocery store to get this kind of attention and criticism. When I first heard what Air One was, it left my jaw agape. $18 breakfast burrito, $30 olive oil, $138 grocery bag, and $20 smoothies from Hailey Bieber? That black people like?
Can I be honest with something about Air One? Can I say something and there won't be no judgment?
I mean, it's a safe place.
Hailey Bieber got a smoothie at Air One that is out of this world.
When I tell you, I had to set the stuff down. When I tell you it was the best $27 I have ever spent on one beverage, $32.25 on a medium. On a medium, Cam.
But I quickly got bored with watching people react to the store, because after a while, it was all just the same thing. Imagine what I just did, but 20 times in a row and angrier. And that's why I don't love 90% of commentary channels, because it's just surface level observations with no deeper analysis. However, I'll still watch them because I have no self-control, and seeing someone's confused face surrounded by various screenshots of different things is my kryptonite. And I'll still complain about it. So yes, the prices are insane. I think that, everyone on TikTok thinks that, even Sammy thinks that.
Tonight, I'm ringing myself out at Meadow Lane. Tomato Flamingo Estates hand soap, $50. Are you kidding?
Now, I don't know how real that was, but that can't be your reaction. You made the prices. The question I found myself asking is, why is everyone annoyed at this store and the people who shop there? Duh, because $15 for chicken nuggets is crazy. But if I was in their shoes and my parents were rich and I worked in finance and I made more money than I could ever possibly need, I too would probably buy this stuff. It's easy for me to say, wow, $20 for a smoothie, that's crazy. Because that is crazy for me. I grew up ordering things exclusively on the dollar menu. The phrase, let me get a number 4 combo, never happened before the age 16. Buying that smoothie would be insane for me. But for someone who can absolutely afford it and has always been able to, that's very normal for them. I don't know that these two experiences can be compared. And if I were in Sammy's shoes, I too would love to build a business that combines both the things that I love and miss seeing in the world and my artistic passions and just the things I love in life. That sounds great. If I had their money, I would write and produce a musical, and it would be terrible, and I would bribe whoever necessary to win a Tony. With that said, I also think it's weird to act like this isn't an insanely rich thing to do, and that its very existence is kind of a slap in the face to people in worse financial situations.
Posing the question of, does New York City need another luxury grocery store? And I'm like, well, first of all, luxury is not the right word.
Now, Samuel, come on now.
A gourmet prepared food market or a grocery store, they've been around forever. And no one's covering their price tags, which are higher for the most part.
Well, sure, but that's because people on TikTok don't know about those other grocery stores. I didn't even know what Dean and DeLuca was until he talked about it. I had to look it up. And I don't need to know because those stores aren't for me, but I know about Meadow Lane because he's been documenting the process of building the store for almost 2 years now. And TikTok is the town square of the internet. It's where the common folk, who are not your demographic, that's where they live. And it might not be fair, but every time I'm scrolling, I kind of just assume that everyone I see is somewhat in my socioeconomic position. So for you to be openly rich and do things that only rich people can do and then act like that's a normal thing, you can't do that and expect people to not get mad.
If you don't want to shop here, you don't have to shop here. I think people have this misconception that there's a sense of elitism here.
The grocery store has bouncers, dude. You can't sell a melon for $65 and say those words. I'm not saying he's a bad guy for having made this store or that it's a dumb idea and it looks bad and that no one wants this, because clearly that's not true. But I am saying that if you're going to make this store or shop at this store, you do have to acknowledge what it is. It's kind of like how we all know that Amazon is basically killing the economy and planet in some way, but we still use it. We don't know exactly how it's doing those things, but we also don't want to look into it too much because it'll make us sad. You're not a supervillain for using Amazon. Everybody does it, but you have to acknowledge, it is what it is. Like using a delivery service to get something you could have reasonably gotten on foot. Or listening to a child talk about how they're getting made fun of, but their bully is low-key funny and you let a snicker slip. But you can't act like in the current state of the world, it's not absurd that a concept like this can exist.
This morning I saw a video of a girl saying that because there are people on SNAP benefits, places like Meadow Lane shouldn't exist. Her whole argument was that because there are people struggling, there should not be grocery stores for like the upper echelon. That's like saying because everyone on earth can't afford a Chanel bag, Chanel shouldn't exist. Like, get a grip.
I don't think that's the same in the slightest. You can say that about a lot of things, like luxury bags, or shoes, or makeup, or jewelry, or vacations, or watches, or anything like that, because those are just nice things to have. They're unnecessary perks. Food is a basic necessity of life. So to know that there are rich people who can drop thousands of dollars on groceries while there are families in the world who don't know where their next meal is coming from is really weird. That just feels incorrect. And you could say, what? So now people can't have luxury cars because some people don't have cars, or we can't have luxury clothes because some people don't have good clothes? Which, I mean, to an extent, I get, but this is food. It's such a basic human need that it crosses the line of, oh, just let people spend money how they want, you know? I mean, that would be like people not having clean drinking water in parts of the country and the world while rich people were having tastings of their favorite luxury water brands. What's that? That's a thing? And you're saying there's such things as water sommeliers who make recommendations as to what waters go great with what foods based on mineral content, acidity, and overall mouthfeel, and some bottles can go for as high as $100? I'm not saying it's personally his fault, and I'm not mad that he made the store. I'm mad that this is possible. So you're not personally evil for shopping there, but I think it's fair that everyone who takes part in this business be forced to acknowledge that, hey, this is kinda messed up. What confuses me is even if I was rich, would I want to shop here? Like spending thousands of dollars on groceries every week. I thought rich people were supposed to buy like cars and purses and people. Well, not people anymore, but like that's what the help is, right? You're buying them. And even worse, why would people who can barely afford to shop here even look in that store's direction? It's simple. They don't want to be associated with the pores. Okay, to be fair, there are obviously some health advantages to shopping at places like this. Stores like Erewhon pride themselves for having a high standard of quality for the food they keep on their shelves.
You've probably deduced by now that Erewhon has a very strict standard for the items that it decides to sell. No refined sugars, no high fructose corn syrup, no artificial colors, flavors, or preservatives. All produce is organic, all dairy is grass-fed, all meat is grass-fed and free-range. 0 GMOs, you get the idea. And they do not make compromises. I checked.
But I also feel like a lot of health things that people worry about online aren't really that dangerous, or they're not that big of a deal. Like people who hate seed oils. Do you drink even a little bit past the recommended limit or smoke ever? Then oils are not your biggest concern. But it feels more productive to buy a special foods or to cut one group of foods out and just say that's the solution than accepting that, hey, maybe I just eat too much and I need to eat less. It's mostly about just what feels like a big enough change, but doing that results in a lot of fear and hype over things that don't matter all that much. For example, fear over MSG was a scam based on the fact fact that Americans hated the Chinese, and that in the olden days, science could basically be whatever you wanted it to be. Because MSG is basically just a seasoning, and it was mainly villainized in the late 60s and 70s, wherein a few people would get groggy after eating Chinese food, and they just blamed it on the MSG. But it's valid, though. They proved it with tests. They took a rat, and they injected a human-sized portion of MSG into its brain, and for some reason it died.
Dude, you know how bad seed oils are for you? They literally did a study where they put rats in a sock and
they called it Chinese restaurant syndrome. Does that sound like a period of history you want to affiliate yourself with? Then there's organic food, which is basically the same as regular food. There's not much reason to believe that organic food is nutritionally superior to traditional produce. In 2014, the director of the Department of Nutrition at Brigham's and Women's Hospital, Kathy McManus, said the following: "There have been a number of studies examining the macro and micronutrient content, but whether organically or conventionally grown, the foods are really similar for vitamins, minerals, and carbohydrates." So it's probably not that different at all. But it's hard to isolate the effects of organic food versus non-organic food, because people who can afford to buy organic food are probably already doing a bunch of stuff that's helping their health. So it's hard to say if the food is doing that or the 10 other lifestyle habits that they do are doing that. So what's the difference between organic and non-organic foods? Well, organic foods are grown without the use of certain fertilizers, soil additives, radiation treatment, or most synthetic pesticides. Aha! Those are science words. It's poison. Well, yeah, I guess, but everything is poison. Water is poison, and if you want to die from it, you just have to drink 40 gallons of it in one sitting. Dosage is everything. So while it is true that organic foods tend to have lower levels of pesticide residue than regular produce, both are within the threshold for safe consumption.
People often claim organic produce is healthier because it's not grown with pesticides. It's not true though. Organic farmers still use pesticides. They're just the organic kind. And because organic pesticides aren't as tailored to specific bugs, farmers typically need to spray more of them. On the other hand, GMO crops can be engineered to be pest resistant, so farmers can use less pesticides, or in some cases, none at all. If consuming fewer pesticides is your goal, then maybe reaching for the GMO might be your best bet.
But you still may be thinking that organic foods are better for you than GMO foods. I mean, of course they are. They took normal food and they injected it with something. I don't know. I don't really know what this is about, but it's chemicals, and that's bad. No, not in this case. It's just food.
These ridiculous health claims have all come from a single rat study that has been so debunked. The Royal Society, UK's National Academy of Science, actually said that this study is flawed in many aspects of design, execution, and analysis, and that no conclusions should even be drawn from it. For over a decade, millions of people across the globe have been eating foods made from genetically modified crops without any reported health issues or even legal cases.
What's funny is I already knew that. I remember learning that GMO foods are completely safe and they're a miracle of agriculture, but that was years ago. And within that time, I was surrounded by people that were implying that GMOs are bad for you through like social media and marketing and all that. So even though I knew cognitively that there was nothing wrong with it, in my head, I started to associate GMOs with bad things. And that's what vibes-based health does to you. It takes a completely normal, affordable, and viable option, villainizes it, and tells you that the only actually healthy thing to do is to buy something that costs twice as much. That's basically the same thing. And then you're happy to do it because it just feels right, you know? And that comes up a lot with health, especially online. A lot of the times, things are considered healthy because, you know, they feel right. There are certain things that just feel that way. For example, drinking a green liquid that tastes awful, you know, because it's green, like plants, so it's good. And if it tastes sweet, then it has sugars, which is carbs, which is bad. But if it tastes like expired grass, that's how I know it's good for me. This is the best $17 I've ever spent. But there's a stronger, more interesting reason that people like to shop at places like this: status.
Attractiveness and value is often synonymous with wealth and the accumulation of material goods. This is called conspicuous consumption. It's a term coined by American economist Thorstein Veblen, who said, "It is not sufficient merely to possess wealth or power. The wealth or power must be put in evidence, for esteem is awarded only on evidence."
People love showing off their wealth. Luxury goods can artificially increase one's self-esteem and fill them with a sense of status and belonging. In 2024, the luxury goods market was valued at over $266 billion. And in 2023, it was reported that 27% of those luxury customers came from households that had a combined income of less than $50K in a year. I've already made a video about this, but I think most luxury goods are hilarious because they're not actually what rich people wear, they're what poor people think rich people wear. So when they blow a whole paycheck paycheck on buying a terrible Gucci button-down that somehow figures out how to squeeze 600 logos into 2 square feet worth of shirt, they think that it makes them look successful, but really, it's the equivalent of a toddler playing house. The adults aren't impressed. But luxury goods are so 2010. Now you can buy knockoffs, you can buy the real thing, take 700 photos with it, and immediately return it for the full value. What's stopping me from flying to LA, getting a mansion on Airbnb for 1 hour, and recording a $300 course about how day trading changed my life within 48 hours? I could have already done that, you don't know.
In today's digital world, luxury goods can be duped. Something will go from the runway to DH Gate in a matter of days. Almost anybody can get lip filler these days. A luxury car can be rented. So I think Gen Z is very slyly using wellness, freedom of routine, to signify wealth.
Because wellness can't nearly be as easily faked. You can't fake or rent expensive restaurants or exercise classes or spa days or grocery stores. As Isabel Truman worded it in her Vogue business article, holding an overpriced smoothie or carrying one of its branded totes becomes less about groceries and more about alignment with a rarefied, health-conscious elite. Feeling good is a social currency. It screams wealth to be able to casually do this. And with this status, it becomes less of a grocery store and more like a club. You get to feel a part of this exclusive community that everyone wants to be in, and the cherry on top is you get to feel healthier in the process. So I can only imagine moving to LA or New York, and then you go into one of these gourmet shops, and then you leave and you're holding a tote bag and a multicolored liquid of some kind, and you just feel like an elevated, more refined version of yourself. Am I better than everyone else? I think so. Yeah, I just finished my solid core class. I had a green juice earlier, and I think I'm gonna get a poke bowl with some sea moss for a palate cleanser. Awesome, I had Fruit Loops for breakfast and dinner today. But there's also social pressure to be considered, because when everyone around you seems to be in their wellness era and you're not doing anything about it, it feels like you're being left behind. My sister started buying probiotic soda and putting it in our shared fridge, and I interpreted it as her calling me fat. She has yet to apologize. But again, it's all about vibes, fitting in, feeling like a better person, achieving an elevated identity, and I get it, I've been there. I've tried dieting before. I remember when I was 13, I found something called the military diet, and it promised to shed 10 pounds in 2 weeks. I lasted about a day and a half. I wanted to keep going, but it required that I eat so much canned tuna and coffee right at the start, I almost threw up. There was nothing nutritionally fulfilling, healthy, or sustainable about that diet, but it's fine because it wasn't really about any of that. It was about building a new identity for myself. I was tired of being the pudgy kid. I was gonna become the skinny kid who was the cool main character who got into a bunch of lovable hijinks. For those 36 hours, I felt like a new me. Of course, immediately after that, I reverted back to my old patterns and I learned no lasting lessons about myself or the world. With that said, although these stores might be overkill, it's probably best to be safe than sorry when it comes to food quality. Now, I understand the reputation of America being the fat kid of the world doesn't exactly instill confidence in the federal recommendations on what we eat. I understand that. But in all honesty, I'm not the kind of guy to believe in government conspiracies, and that generally, most federal departments are run by educated people who know what they're talking about, and that if the FDA allows something to be in food, it's probably fine. However, upon further research, I've come to the conclusion that in the 1800s, meat processing was an insane industry with almost no regulations and unbelievably dangerous practices. And all of this was exposed when a man named Upton Sinclair wrote one of the most impactful American novels to date, The Jungle. In 1904, the Chicago Meatpackers Union went on strike, and during this time, Sinclair went down to talk to the workers, observe their working conditions, and chronicled his findings on the way. What he found is that the workers were being treated incredibly poorly, so what he originally hoped with his book was that he could get better working conditions for meatpackers and inspire a socialist revolution. However, the American public was more interested in a different aspect of his book. It's terrible. These guys are working long hours, making slave wages, and their working conditions are completely unsafe. That's not right. Yeah, and while I was there, they would sometimes put sausage on carts with urine and dead rats on it. And also, the housing these guys are provided is abysmal. Sorry, let's hit a rewind on that. What's up? Is this for dog food? I thought you were describing meat for humans that they sell in stores. I am. And you said they do what to the meat? Well, sometimes the workers would have tuberculosis and they would cough over the meat and spit blood on the floors. And also they would take rotting meat, fill it with chemicals and sawdust and just sell it anyway. We're mad about the same thing, right? No, what are you mad about? The book was so influential that it got the attention of then President Roosevelt and led to the passing of both the Federal Meat Inspection Act and the Pure Food and Drug Act of 1906. And these were landmark pieces of legislation that would eventually lead to the formation of the Food and Drug Administration. That was a lot of alliteration. I did it again. Hey! Also known as the FDA. The FDA regulates 80% of the American food supply. And as you may expect, they're meant to confirm that food and drugs sold in the US are safe. And it's not fair to say that they don't do that. There's a famous example from the 60s where the FDA didn't approve a drug called thalidomide because they feared it didn't have enough research on it, even though other countries were currently selling it at the time. And as it turns out, they were right to do it because it was later discovered that the drug caused significant birth defects. And a case like that is exactly what legitimizes the FDA. However, with that said, it makes it all the more confusing as to how the FDA became what it is today. In 1958, the Food Additives Amendment of the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act made it so that if you added anything to food, it was considered a food additive. The logic checks out so far. And as a food additive, it would need to be approved by the FDA before the food could be sold. Well, I was just gonna add salt to this meat before I sold it. I need federal approval for that? It's salt. Well, no, not for stuff like that. Everybody knows salt is fine. You don't have to go through this approval process for food additives if you're only using things that are generally recognized as safe. Originally, there were a set list of ingredients that were considered GRAS, and if you as a company wanted to add an ingredient to that list, you had to go through an approval process. But in 1997, they made a slight change to the rule. Hey guys, we can't keep reviewing all these ingredients one at a time. If you think a new ingredient should be considered GRAS, do some tests to prove that it's safe, and we'll believe you. Oh, well, we ran some numbers. You didn't want to, like, review them or anything? I mean, I can if you want me to. No, that's not what I'm saying. I just wanted to confirm, as long as we do test and confirm that it's safe, you'll just believe us? Yeah, sure, it's fine, whatever. What? If that sounds like a weird and dangerous loophole, then you've been paying attention because that's exactly what it is. A company can add an ingredient to food, skip the food additive approval process by essentially claiming, you know, it's already, everybody knows it's safe. They tell the FDA, we tested it, trust me, bro, and basically put in anything they want. Wait. So the ingredients in food have to be approved by you guys? Of course. Except for the ones that are already considered to be safe. Right. But a company can just say an ingredient is safe. Well, and you're pretty much not gonna check. It would appear that way. So you regulate food, yes, except you don't. I mean, that's... You know what's in this? Well, I don't, that's just not, I can't. How many food ingredients do you guys not know about? I want to say 24. There are 3,000 ingredients that the FDA hasn't looked into that's in food right now. And there are a number of additives that are allowed in the US that aren't allowed in other countries. And you remember that case from the 60s where the opposite happened and it turned out to be a good thing because, again, it was hurting children? So that's not a great sign. Obviously, I'm not saying that's a direct parallel and that food additives are going to kill the children. No, that'd be an insane conclusion to draw. What I am saying is, I don't know. And I'm not the only one saying that. Thomas Nelter, an author on that study that got the 3,000 ingredient stat, he said that the system is fundamentally broken. It's so bad, nobody, not even the FDA, knows what's in our food. The former FDA commissioner is quoted as saying the food industry does massive amounts of research that we have no access to, and that there is good reason to be concerned about the chemicals that are routinely included in much of our food. The government guy said that. And that might not even be the worst part of it. Sometimes companies will go to the FDA and voluntarily ask them to check their work so that they can get their stamp of approval because it's like a marketing thing. Look, guys, the FDA said we're good, we're so healthy. But during that process, if the FDA goes back to the company and says, guys, I don't know that this is safe, the company can just say, no, never mind.
The FDA can say, whoa, your numbers are wrong, your product might make people sick, and the company can say, whatever. Pretend this never happened, and we're gonna sell it anyway.
About 1 in every 6 gets pulled back by the company because they don't want to get a letter that says, this is not GRAS.
And that doesn't even mention how easy it is to sell supplements. And that mainly has to do with the fact that supplements are considered food, not drugs.
By making supplements a food only rather than a food and a drug, there's less oversight required for drug-like claims like better performance or longer hair and that sort of thing.
So hypothetically, if we were selling a drug, it would take a lot of time before we could get the all clear from you guys, right? Absolutely. Right. But if we were just selling food, we wouldn't need to jump through nearly as many hoops, correct? No, I guess not. And hypothetically, if we took that food and broke it down into bite-sized pieces, that would still be considered food, right? Yeah, sure. And if we so happened to atomize those small pieces until they were nothing but fine dust, we could still say that's technically food. I suppose technically that's... And if we put those bite-sized portions of dust into easily dissolvable capsules meant to be taken by the mouth, that would still technically be considered food, right? We're selling pills, but it's food though. That's cool, right? Thank you took too long. I sold 1,000 bottles. Also, I got a story on Channel 5. It's the miracle cure that's sweeping the nation. I can see again. Okay, so rich people can afford to buy perfect food that costs $500 a day, and even so, it's still based on a lot of fear over things that don't matter all that much. But also, food sold to the masses has concerns because the FDA has an annual budget of a loose sack of quarters. So how is a person who simply wants to not die supposed to have a decent diet? Well, I'm not an expert on nutrition, but I do know a lot about the internet because I work here. So from my research and very limited life experience, there are a few things I like to keep in mind. This is not medical advice, life advice, or good advice. Don't sue me, please, 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 please. I think serial dieting is stupid and I hate it. I know people who do this in real life and it's very annoying. My sister and her husband have been trying to lose the same 5 pounds for the past 7 years. Why do you guys do this? It's not that hard of a process. Don't worry, they're never gonna see this, it's fine. This is embarrassing for you. If either one of you loses 10 pounds and keeps it off for 6 months, I will send both of you $100. I'm not joking. Again, they're not gonna see this, don't worry, it's fine, I'm not gonna pay that money. Eat less food, that's the whole game. It doesn't matter how you do it. Eat less and you burn calories. Oh, but I can just eat however much I want and then I'll work it off when I go to the gym. No, you won't. That's such a stupid sentence, man. That will never happen. Well, I mean, I've seen Olympic athletes and professional sports players talk about how they have to eat so much to keep up their energy. So, you know, maybe if I work as hard as they can, I can do the same thing. Those are some of the most genetically cracked human beings on the face of the planet and possibly all of human history. They have nothing to do with me or you. I'm confident there's a good portion of you out there that if you just cut out sauces and condiments and nothing else, you would lose weight. I don't know how long it would take, but it would definitely happen. And however you do it, just don't pick a method that's too restrictive and is only gonna last 2 weeks. For example, I refuse to believe Slim Fast has ever helped more than 5% of their customers. Replacing a meal with a can of milk twice a day is not a diet. That's starvation, but on the go. But also, you need to be realistic about not just your cravings, but your daily life and sharing meals with other people. I think about this all the time. Food is deeply communal. Imagine if you were invited to a party and everyone was told to bring their own plates and you can't share with anybody else. Now, essentially, even though that's what happens once you've already served all the food at a traditional party, that would just feel really weird. Eating is about sharing. We talked about what we're gonna get off the menu when the waiter finally comes, or waiting in the buffet line together for 20 minutes, or asking to try something off their plate. They say no, they walk away, you take a bite and act like nothing ever happened. We've all done this. So when you take part of a diet that's so non-conforming, you can't participate in the normal eating habits of the people around you, it cuts you off from a facet of community. At that point, it's not just inconvenient, it's isolating. And remember, trying to eat better and trying to get more active, it's not always about weight loss. As someone who lost 60 pounds, it's annoying to hear about weight loss now. I don't care. I want advice on how to get stronger or faster or more flexible or how to bulk up. There are other things to do with weight and body recomposition and health and in the gym that aren't just losing it. Most of the time when you look up workout meals, it's just buckets of loose cottage cheese and lettuce where bread should be, while a woman pointing like this lies to the camera about her daily lifestyle habits. And while we're talking about, stop making recipes that taste just like the real thing, that taste nothing like the real thing. It's either that or it takes 5 hours to make. I'm never gonna purchase xanthan gum, all right? That's never happening. If that's what it takes to have a Pop-Tart with less carbs, I'm just gonna eat a regular Pop-Tart and die a little sooner. This is a very long tangent, but I have nowhere else to explain this in my personal life, so this is just gonna have to sit here. I don't like that there are so many diet recipes focused on trying to make something taste like something else that it will never taste like. Cottage cheese will never taste like ice cream, Greek yogurt will never taste like mayo, and dates, tofu, and rice will never taste like chocolate. That just makes a brown, lumpy paste. I think instead of doing that, it would be much better to just make a new food that could only be made with these new ingredients. Like, imagine if there was someone who loved peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, but they were going on a diet to try and stop eating them as much. It would be insane to then try and make a peanut butter and jelly replacement meal out of a steak. Like, you make a steak jelly by curing it in sugar and berries, and you make a steak nutty paste by putting it in some sort of oil and blending that together, and then you use 2 freeze-dried steaks as the bread and put it all together. It's basically the same thing. No! Just make the guy a normal steak. Is it gonna be the same thing as a peanut butter and jelly? No. But is it gonna be a good food? Yeah. And it's a new food that can only be made with non-peanut butter and jelly ingredients. Did that make sense? Please tell me it made sense. I've spent a lot of time putting that illustration together. That wasn't even for the video. I came up with that going to sleep like several months ago. Stop trying to make vegetables taste like meat and cottage cheese like anything your heart desires. They're never gonna replace the old food. Just make new food that can only be made with the new ingredients. I also like to stay away from fad diets that overly vilify or praise a certain macronutrient. Carbs will kill you, fat makes you fat, protein is the best thing ever created on earth and we need to put it in everything so it can prevent cancer and we'll live forever! And with that brilliant segue, I'd like to mathematically explain at length why I think the current push for protein is stupid. Protein is a macronutrient most commonly found in meat that has been mainly popularized for its ability to satiate and therefore prevent overeating, as well as its being crucial to muscle growth. With that being said, the internet fell in love with it way too much, and now every manufacturer is trying to find a way to shove it into every product they sell. If they could infuse it into toilet paper, they would do it. I don't like it. Other YouTubers have talked about it at length, so I'm not gonna harp on it, but I don't like it either. Because there's no way that protein soda tastes good. This didn't need to exist. It cannot taste good. Why? Okay. And it's ridiculous because most people don't need to worry about getting in enough protein. If you're just a normal person, eat 1 chicken breast a day and you'll be fine.
Do you think people are doing too much? People were doing too much 5-10 years ago. But now I have patients that will come and say, I found these protein shakes that have 40 grams of protein. And I'm like, huh? Why do you need a shake with 40 grams of protein? You're 5'3".
But if you are serious about getting your protein in, don't do it by getting all of these snacks, and do not use the MyFitnessPal AI thing.
With MyFitnessPal, you can actually focus on what works for you. You know, like this.
Granola and milk.
Or if your arms are shaking after an amazing workout, track it with your voice.
I'm having a protein shake.
Whether you want to...
No, I'm not okay with that. How? No amounts, no brand names, no portion sizes, just protein shake. And that's it? That's not how that works. What brand made it? How much did you drink? What about the other macronutrients? That's not how any of that doesn't make any sense. I'm not totally sure that's how it actually works. You just say the food and it does everything. I'm not gonna download it to find out because the marketing department should have explained the app better then. If that's not exactly how it works, the marketing department deserves to be fired. And if it is how it works, everyone else except the marketing department deserves to be fired because they did a terrible job and made a bad app. So I currently weigh about 190 and I'm trying to get up to 215 pounds. So in addition to going to the gym and taking supplements and eating more, I'm trying to get 200 grams of protein in every day. Do you think I'm doing that by eating protein cereal with protein milk and a protein bagel and a protein donut on the weekends? No! I murder a family line worth of chickens every week. I regularly eat a pound of ground meat with vegetables and rice every day. And like family packs worth of skinless, boneless chicken thighs. That'll last like 3 days tops. It's gotten to the point where I've memorized what the price of meats should be per pound and I can compare them at different stores. If it goes up even a few cents, I'll notice the difference. I'll get big tubs of protein powder that have 60 servings in it. That'll last about a month. Every morning, I drink a 1,000 calorie smoothie that's made of oats, peanut butter, creatine, protein powder, berries, oil, and as much milk as can fit in between. It's 70 grams of protein. It's the thickest liquid you could ever imagine. And yes, my farts have been insane. That's why I don't get the protein craze. What I just described is a fairly cheap way of getting that much protein in on a daily basis. But even that costs a pretty good amount. So if you were trying to get a sustainable amount of protein for muscle building by using all of these different snacks and supplements, you would either be spending $900 a month on groceries or only getting a fraction of what you actually need. Almost no one needs these protein products, and even if you get them, they're never going to be what you want them to be. Anytime a woman in yoga pants or a man with the thickest mustache you've ever seen makes a protein recipe on TikTok, they're lying to you and themselves. It will never taste like the thing they're pretending it is. You know they're lying deep down. You just want it to be true. These are lies and empty promises. We both know that. I wish I had a happier ending about how the power of friendship will solve all of these problems. It won't. But if you cook from home, don't eat as many ultra-processed foods, and you fight the urge to use food as a status symbol, we'll probably be fine. But what if I told you it wouldn't be fine? I just wanted to do it one more time. I'm sorry.